Hey everyone, hope you're all doing well and staying safe. This is my daughter Layla who wanted to say hi. So we're gonna do a video here, or I'm gonna do a video here about Hamilton and In the Heights, the opening numbers for each song, and some stuff about character development and narrative development. And Layla is a huge fan of both of those plays. We were supposed to see Hamilton yesterday, but
The stupid coronavirus.
stupid coronavirus. And so her favorite songs in Hamilton, her favorite song is Wait for It, and her favorite song in the Heights is 96,000. And that's it. So thanks. Thank you. All right. So here we go. So anyway, hope you're being safe. I know this is crazy, but thanks for bearing with me. And hopefully this will be, not too terribly boring for you. So in the note for this video, I said, please listen to Alexander Hamilton and In the Heights, the opening tracks for each play. And hopefully you did that. We'll play some of it here through my phone and talk about it a bit as we go. You can see I'm wearing one of my Hamilton shirts to set the tone for the video. Okay, so what I wanted to talk about with regards to these two plays, specifically how the opening numbers and then songs throughout each of the plays really do kind of all of the work, and they have to because it's so much music and so little play. So little spoken dialogue in the Heights, and like no spoken dialogue in Hamilton, basically. They do all the work of developing the characters and forwarding the narrative. So everything needs to be done lyrically and through dance on stage, which is very different than anything else we've studied so far this semester. So if you think of the first two numbers, the opening two numbers of each play, they both obviously start the plays. They both introduce the story. In Hamilton, for instance, that opening number basically it introduces a bunch of themes, but also, gives us an entire biography of Hamilton up until he arrives in New York. And the opening number of In the Heights, it introduces us to almost all of the major characters, as well as some major themes like immigration and gentrification and so forth. So they carry a lot of baggage in both of those scenes that you can get away with music that you can't get away with. Like you can't have really a realistic bit of dialogue that opens a play that's spoken dialogue that does all these things. You can get away with that lyrically that you can't get away with just spoken. So basically they set up the whole thing. And so let's start with In the Heights, I guess. Let's start with Hamilton because it's what I've got queued up. So let's listen to a little bit of it. I won't play the whole thing, but we can follow along with some of the lyrics here that I sent you and just listen to this opening track.
Son of a whore and a Scotsman, dropped in the middle of a forgotten spot in the Caribbean, by providence impoverished and squalor, grow up to be a hero and a scholar. The $10 founding father without a father got a lot farther by working a lot harder, by being a lot smarter, by being a self-starter. By 14, they placed him in charge of a trading charter.
And every day while slaves were being slaughtered and carted away across the waves, he struggled and kept his guard up. Inside he was longing for something to be a part of. The brother was ready to beg, steal, borrow, or barter.
Then a hurricane came and devastation reigned. Our man saw his future dripping down the drain. Put a pencil to his temple, connected it to his brain, and he wrote his first refrain, a testament to his pain. Well, the word got around, they said this kid is insane, man. Took up a collection just to send him to the mainland. Get your education, go
So basically, just in that sort of opening few bits, we get, where Hamilton's born. We get the introduction of, of him being an immigrant, of him being, of illegitimate birth. If you're watching the play, if you watch the YouTube bootleg of the play, you see, of course, that it's Burr and Jefferson and Madison and Washington and Eliza and Angelica. It's all like the people that are, we don't know quite who they are at the beginning of the play, but it gives us his biography, because there's like an assumption that we know like a little bit about Hamilton. Like before this play, like frankly, I knew that he was on the $10 bill. And I knew he was a founding father, but like I had no idea about anything else about Alexander Hamilton until this play. And so everything I know basically about American history from this period is from this play. So there's an assumption that like we know a little bit, but not a lot. And so like all this other interesting stuff is being thrown in, like him being an abolitionist and so forth, and being very driven, which is of course a major theme in the play. And so that's the opening number of Hamilton, at least the first few verses of the opening number of Hamilton. And then I was just, what I would like you to do is I sent you that sheet that's like the character development sheet. And so when you listen to it, just sort of go through and make notes about like what you learn about what characters and in which songs you learn those things. And I think, you'll see, like, for instance, I just wrote down a few of them. For instance, that in the song the Schuyler Sisters, we learn about Angelica and Eliza and Peggy, although poor Peggy doesn't get much airtime around here. Right Hand Man, we learn about Washington, Satisfied, we learn about Angelica. Wait For It, of course, is Aaron Burr's big number. What I Missed teaches us about Jefferson. Burn and Helpless teach us about Eliza. So, like, each song, like, there's a lot of songs that are like, this is the song that's going to teach you about this character, right? Whereas in like dialogue-driven plays, you have to develop that, that character, through what they say. You can be much more explicit about it if you've got sort of the safety net of like dope music. That's, the opening number of Hamilton. I would say also, I guess we can do In the Heights now and then come back to what I want to talk about as far as time goes and the, how time is handled in each of those plays. So if we listen to the opening number of In the Heights, it's kind of much more explicit in a traditional sort of a Broadway sense. You have Usnavi giving his monologue, but he's also like pointing out the different characters who all come through his story, which is kind of like how we go through that world where it's like Usnavi's got the bodega and like everyone in the neighborhood comes through the bodega. Like that's like the center of the neighborhood, which is why it's so important that he ends up staying. But here we go. Let's listen to just a bit of that.
Lights up on Washington Heights, up at the break of day. I wake up and I got this little punk I gotta chase away. Pop the grate at the crack of dawn, sing while I wipe down the awning. Hey y'all, good morning.
Ice coffee agua, parcha, china, cherry, strawberry, and just for today, I got mamey.
Oye, Piragüero, ¿cómo está?
Como siempre, señor Usnavi.
I am Usnavi, and you probably never heard my name. Reports of my fame are greatly exaggerated, exacerbated by the fact that my syntax is highly complicated, cause I immigrated from the single greatest little place in the Caribbean, Dominican Republic. I love it, Jesus, I'm jealous of it, and beyond that, ever since my folks passed on, I haven't gone back. God damn, I gotta get on that. Oh. The milk is gone, Dad. Hold it just a second. Why is everything in this fridge warm and tepid? I better step it up and fight the heat, cause I'm not making any profit if the coffee isn't light and sweet. Abuela, my fridge broke. I got café, but no con leche.
Try my mother's own recipe. 1 can of condensed milk.
Nice.
Ay, paciencia y fe.
That was Abuela. She's not really my abuela, but she practically raised me. This corner is her escuela now. You probably thinking I'm a up Schitt's Creek. I never been north of 96th Street. Well, you must take me a train. Even farther than Harlem to northern Manhattan and maintain. Get off at 181st and take the escalator. I hope you're writing this down. I'm gonna test you later. I'm getting tested. Times are tough on this bodega. 2 months ago, somebody bought Ortega's. Our neighbors started packing up and picking up, and ever since the rents went up, it's gotten mad expensive. But we live with just enough.
Okay, so there we have obviously Usnavi, but we have like the introduction more of the themes of the play than just at that point the characters. So we've got that he's an immigrant, that we're in Harlem, that the next verse is he and his cousin Sonny run the bodega, that his parents have passed away, that he's from the Dominican Republic, that we have gentrification in the neighborhood, and so that all the prices are going up. And then, of course, Benny comes through and Sonny comes through, and we just met Abuela and learned about his relationship with Abuela, and Nina's parents come through as well. So, and of course, Vanessa, the great love interest of the play. But then, so like the characters who don't get super well introduced in that song come in right next, like Nina's amazing, beautiful song, Breathe. Then we hear Kevin, Nina's dad, and Inutil, that tries to help explain why, he drives her, Nina, away and maybe has some issues with her and Benny. It Won't Be Long Now is Vanessa's song about trying to get out of the neighborhood. Paciencia y Fe gives us Abuela Claudia's story and so forth. And so in any event, you get these songs that really do say, this is the song that's going to explain this character, right? Here are the lyrics that are going to explain this character and so forth. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about is just like how time is handled, because the play is like, obviously, musically it's kind of hip hop and contemporary music that link the two of them together, but in Lin-Manuel Miranda's genius that linked them together, but they're also like so different as far as and they're thematically similar with legacy and ambition and loyalty and so forth. Those are all themes that run through both plays. But so like Hamilton covers the course of decades, right? And In the Heights covers just a weekend. And so those are very different the way that they're handled. If you look at, In the Heights, time's not really an issue as far as like explaining it to your audience, because it's such a short period of time. It's just like 2 days. So like, sun goes down, sun comes up. That's the whole time period basically until the sun goes down on the final Sunday for the finale of In the Heights. But in Hamilton, we've got decades. And so some of the things you see in Hamilton to make that more clear is you have like the chorus calling out the years, 1789, or, they do that throughout. You have songs that cover vast spaces. So as we said, Alexander Hamilton covers basically Hamilton's birth all the way up until the year 1776 when he arrives in New York. You have, for example, the trio or the duo, I guess, of Winter's Ball and through Satisfied, the trio. And you have like that covers the whole courtship, Hamilton meeting Eliza and Angelica, courting Eliza, marrying her, and explaining the whole sort of love triangle, that strange love triangle that makes up such a big part of the play as well. And then, for example, Nonstop covers the whole end of the war through years later, where Hamilton becomes, more involved in the politics of things as the Treasury Secretary, the Secretary of the Treasury. So in any event, like when we've talked about how you handle those things on stage, if you've got big time gaps in a play, like in a dialogue-driven play, that can be hard unless you do it, with costume changes and wig changes or makeup that's done at, intermission or something like that. But with the musical, you can sort of, fly through it just because we sort of suspend disbelief a little bit more. So in any event, that's kind of a little bit about how those two plays work together and differently. and they're great. So I hope you enjoyed them. I wish I had a performance of In the Heights to show you. We're gonna have to wait for the movie to come out, which has been delayed because of, as Layla said, the stupid coronavirus. So anyway, I hope your writing is going well. I look forward to hearing from you all. Hang in there. Be safe and take care of yourselves. All right.